Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to do a portrait drawing demo using a ballpoint pen. I was actually just looked across the room and I saw it and I figured, I haven't done a ballpoint pen drawing in a while, and I thought I would just do a portrait demo for you guys. Now in this video I'm going to elaborate on a couple of things that are important when it comes to drawing a portrait, whether it's with pen or pencil or whatever the medium you're using. And as I said, I am going to actually do a portrait drawing series that will go over proportions. I know I addressed some of that already, drawing the head in different positions, the anatomy, structure, and so on. But for now, I think I'll just give some tips in this video. Now, one of the things, I'm trying to find the image that I decided I was going to draw because, oh, here it is. I like jazz, and a lot of times you find really cool black and white photos of jazz musicians, and I like Art Blakey, so I thought that, I would just use this image, which is actually an album cover. In the original image, it's actually he's facing to the right, and I kind of flipped it. I don't know, I liked it better with him facing to the left, so you can see the cover for the album reading backwards. Now, I thought this was a really good image in terms of the lighting, in terms of practice in drawing the head, and I'll go over some of the things that I'm talking about right here. So here I have a piece of tracing paper over this. It will help me to illustrate some of the points I'm discussing. Now, one of the things that I find that's often overlooked by a lot of people, especially beginners, when you're doing portraits, is that they don't understand the importance of considering the light source of the subject. Now, that means where is the light source coming from? How does it affect the head overall and the forms individually? And also, what kind of a value pattern does that create overall? Now, a lot of times, unfortunately, because they don't understand this, a lot of people will find drawing portraits overwhelming, and also will not make the best decisions when it comes to rendering and using values. Now, what do I mean by all that? Okay, if you go to an art school, one of the things you're gonna do, especially when it comes to drawing, is that they're gonna set up a still life or a subject, and you draw it with only one primary light source. Okay, now why is that? That is because when you're lighting a form, like the head, for example, is a complex form, and light is shining on it, because it's a complex form, you want to use a light source that will best define or bring out the three-dimensional quality of the head. So in other words, if you have, what do I mean by that? If you have a block like this, okay? Now, we all know that this has 6 basic sides. You see the volume of this block when you can identify and distinguish the 3 basic sides right here. In other words, if the cube is facing like that, in other words, it's facing straight towards us, you can't see the volume. Now it just looks like a square. It could actually look like that. Now this is showing both sides, and you can sense the volume here, but it's not as strongly as here. See what I'm saying? It could also be like this. It is also showing some volume, but not as strongly as here. So the worst position in terms of if you want to see depth is this. And the second best would be these. Okay? And then, of course, perfect way to show the volume of a cube is when you can see all of its 3 dimensions, which is like here. That's why when you're drawing the head, you can capture the volume of the head best when it's in a 3/4 view like this. And that's why drawing the head in a straightforward view like this is generally the most challenging view to draw the head. Also, similarly, a profile view is also pretty challenging, right? When you're drawing the head like this. So this is pretty challenging, this is pretty challenging, and this is when you can see the most volume. Now, another thing is, in addition to the position of the head, is the lighting. Now, if I'm shining light on this, and it's in my power to set up the lighting the way I want, I'm going to set up a lighting so that I use a light that's positioned so that it distinguishes these light sources. So in other words, I'm able to see, say for example, the light is at the top, then I know the one that's facing away is going to be darkest, and then the one that's in the middle, it's not completely in shadow and it's not completely in light. This is going to have a middle value, see, and this is going to be lighter. See, this is capturing the depth of a cube at its in the most perfect way. Why? Because I can distinguish each of the basic sides. I can tell the top from the front from the side. See, now with the head, if you're drawing the head, it's good to use, especially if it's in your control, and that's why you see many artists do that. They have one primary light source. Now, this is not the ideal scenario because right now there are different light sources shining on this, okay? And you should be able to identify that whenever you're going to draw a subject. Otherwise, shading is going to be a problem for you. So in other words, by looking at this head, you should be able to identify where are the light sources, where are the primary light sources, and where are they positioned. Or in other words, have some idea of where they're positioned. And you should be able to answer that question, okay? Now, the most obvious light source is this one, the one that's illuminating the face, and that is front top. So it's around somewhere up here. All right, somewhere up there. Because how do I know that? Because I look at the nose, I look at the lips, I look at the surface, the plane under the lips. See, this is facing down, it's in shadow. Here is in shadow. Why? Because it's facing down. Here is facing up. The top of the nose, see here, the base of the nose is facing down, so all of this is in shadow. See that? Shadow. If you look under the eyelids, the eyebrow, see, under here, it's facing down, so it's in shadow. Shadow. The top of the eyelid is catching light. Why? Because it's facing up. Here it's facing up. Here's facing up. Facing up. So you see all the surfaces here, the cheek, the front of the cheek is facing up, so it's in light. See, as it turns down, is in shadow. Now, generally, the top of the chin right here is in light, but his is not. Why? Because it's receding. Some people have, some people have chins that, say that's the nose and that's the mouth. Some people have chins that are out there like that. Some people have chins that are like that. See? So obviously, if light is shining like this guy's chin is going to catch light. This guy's chin is being obscured or impeded because his lips are protruding. See that? So you won't be able to catch as much light on his chin as this guy. See? So you have to think about those things. In other words, when you look at a subject, you should be able to understand why is shadow in a certain place where shadow is, and why is light, and so on. Okay? In the same way, you see this rim of light? That's because here it's facing up. See? And you think about those things as you're shading. So in other words, your shading should make sense. See this? It's turning around. So here is in shadow. Why? Because it's facing this way. Here is in shadow because it's facing the light. Okay? But however, now this is the first light source. There's another light source from this direction. See? It's facing, it's shining here. So that's why here's illuminated. See this bright spot? That's because the side of the head is catching most of the light. It's closest to the light source, and it's at the top of the head, and it's facing almost directly to the light source. So it's almost like, see this little shadow here? Here is like the plane of a box, like this. And this side is getting its own light, and this side is getting its own light. See, and that's what's going on. So ideally, you would want to have if you want to set up a head, someone's head to draw and study how to shade the head, you want to use one primary light source. I wouldn't use this one. Or if I did use it, it would not be as intense. It would just be very light to illuminate the side of the head enough to make the forms visible, so it's not in complete shadow, but not overpowering enough where it competes with this one. See, this is be very challenging, okay, for the beginner, and I wouldn't advise or encourage someone to do this at first. First, practice with using one primary light source like this. So all of this area would be in shadow. See, all of this would be in shadow. And then here is where most of the action is, and it makes it simpler and it communicates things a lot easier for you. Okay, now But the thing is, eventually you would have drawings where you'd start including multiple light sources and so on. But I advise in the beginning, you always try to have one primary light source in your drawing. And so with this, there's one main light source here, one main light source here. What you'll find that I may do, I'll just see how I feel, is that I may subdue the light on this side and draw it as if there's only one light source, one primary light source. Okay, and not make this as overpowering, because then the forms are kind of competing. All right. So, and of course, another thing I'll mention really quickly is about the proportions. See, of course, you're generally taught that the proportions are like, like that's the midways, the eyes, and then you have these thirds where the eyebrow and the nose and the mouth and so on, blah, blah, blah. However, when the head is tilted like this is right now, those proportions get obscured. So in other words, it's not like this anymore. Now it's like this. See, you're looking up like that. See? And that's what's going on here. So that's why if you notice, this distance seems a lot larger than this distance. See that? Generally, you're taught that the distance between here and here, between here and here, equal. Here, they're obviously not. This is a lot larger than this. And also you can see the effects of perspective as well. In other words, here is converging. So what does that mean? The distance from here to here is not the same as from here to here. Okay? And that's important to understand. But it's like you have something like this. Like that. This is not seen in perspective. If it's seen in perspective, now it looks like this. See? So the distance from here to here is now larger, or appears larger than this. So it's the same thing that's happening here. See? All right. So you have to consider, give thought to things like that when you're, drawing the head. And also, you can get a clue of where things are, because also by the position of the ear. Think of right here as a side plane. See, just like the side plane of a block, like this. All right. Think of this as like the side plane of the head. All right. Things shift here. It goes like that, and then goes around, and then face, side, face, side. Face, side, face, side. See what I'm saying? So when you're drawing, your contour line should be wrapping around. When you're shading, you should feel as if you're going around the head like that. And that's important to create, real three-dimensional effect in your drawings. Okay? So these are some of the things I'll address when I start doing that portrait drawing series. So you guys can look forward to that. All right? So let's get to this drawing. Now, as I said, I'm going to use a ballpoint pen, and actually maybe I'll use my TD brand pen. And the cool thing is that I love about drawing with ballpoint pens is that you can actually sketch with it, because you can make lines that are so light, and in the next moment make lines that are very bold. And you don't really have that flexibility when it comes to like the other technical drawing pens like the Copics or Pigment Microns and so on. These ballpoint pens have that advantage. Look at this. There's virtually no line. And I'm actually going to do the portrait right here. All right, and when I'm done, you won't see these lines. So that's one of the advantages of using a ballpoint pen. right, I think that's about it. See, it gives you a good idea of what I meant in terms of just focusing on one light source. Yes, there's a light source acting here, but I pretty much ignored that and focused on what was going on the front plane. And you can see here where I kind of like outlined where the side plane actually is coinciding with the front plane, and that's pretty much where I started my gradation towards the front. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys got some useful tips from this, and you can look forward to me doing that series on portrait drawing. So this should give you a taste of what you should look forward to.